Ashley and I are feeling it, and we figured if we are, somebody else might too. So we wanted to. We're all in this together.
We're all
That's
in this
my point.
together, and even if no matter here we are. Here we are, friends. Here we are. Grab hands and hold on.
That is good suggestion for your watch of Mayfair Witches, I would say.
Also, grab hands and hold on.
Hold on.
Jesus Meesus.
The Articulate Coven is the original, unofficial fan podcast and community for Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire, The Vampire Chronicles, The Lives of the Mayfair Witches, and The Immortal Universe from AMC and AMC+.
Welcome to The Articulate Coven. We are your hosts. I'm Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are The Articulate Coven. The Articulate Coven is the unofficial fan podcast and community for Anne Rice's Immortal Universe and all of her works, including Interview with a Vampire, of course, and this show that we're going to be discussing tonight, Mayfair Witches, Season 2, Episode 5. Can you believe we're up to 5 already?
I feel every bit of it.
January definitely feels 5 weeks long.
Well, yes, yeah, for sure, 100%. We were just discussing that. The January that will not end. Today is the last day of January, but I'm not convinced. I'm not stuck in some sort of, like a Groundhog Day hell.
I saw somebody on TikTok like on the 24th or something, and they were like, hey, did you know that tomorrow is still January and the next day is still January and a week from now it's still January?
Well, I was having a conversation with some friends on the 29th, and we were talking about the state of things, and I was like, well, we're like 19 days into this, and they were like, no, babe, it's 9. We're 9 days into this. 9. It's 9. And I was like, I'm never getting out of January.
We've only just begun. I had a friend. God, now I'm going to have to look this up because the number was so disappointing and defeating.
Oh, no.
A friend texted the other day and said, congratulations, everybody. On the 29th of January, he texted and said, hey, we are 208th through Trump's second term.
Oh.
So that's fun. That's fun, everybody.
Well, we know we have a listener in Tasmania now, so I feel like if we need to just go, we've got a nice island to visit.
Steve, here's a little feedback. Steven Sabal said, hi, Ashley and Joel. So happy to be in the know with the Articulate Coven. If I may, I have a question that only the fansiest of fans could know. Over some time, I went to collecting as many first edition hardcovers of Anne's books that I could afford. The Mummy in particular was a doozy. I found it odd that when I found copies of Interview with the Vampire and Blood Canticle, they were so very much smaller than all of the others. If either of you have seen Pandora or Vittorio the Vampire when they were released, they were exactly that size. Okay, I have vivid memories of Pandora and Vittorio because that was
I do too. Because they were
our
cute.
wheelhouse when we were new fans, still fairly new.
And they were cute. They were cute little books. They were like
half-size hardbacks.
Yeah,
almost
like a little treat. Yeah, like a little bit bigger than a paperback, but a hardback.
Yeah. Very interesting. So he's saying he's found versions of Interview with the Vampire and Blood Canticle that were that size as well. Now, I've never seen Blood Canticle that size. I have a copy of Blood Canticle in hardcover, and it's a full-size hardcover.
Yeah, mine is too. Yeah. I haven't ever looked to see if any, I don't think any of mine are first editions. And I certainly don't have a good first edition copy of Interview. Though my friend Rodney's been buying up first edition copies like crazy, like lately. He has a first edition Interview that's signed.
Oh, that's awesome. I do feel a little bit like a fake fan sometimes when I realize like I don't have anything signed by Anne, and I don't even own a full collection of the books, let alone I've never been a first edition guy. I'm not.
No.
I will say this: I'm not precious with my physical books and never have been.
Yeah,
If I have a library, it is honestly because I hope someone will ask me and I can change their life by giving them this book.
I have a decent sized library, and I love books, and I'm rough with books, which is why I've never really been a book collector. Like, I've had to replace my favorite books numerous times. I've probably had like 6 copies of The Stand over my lifetime.
I know this is sacrilegious for a lot of folks, but like I do feel like they're consumables. They're made to, like, that is inherently the nature of books, is they are made to be used and consumed and passed around.
You also, like, you sold off all of your physical media. Like,
Yeah,
what
okay,
was that? Like,
true.
so I totally get that you're that way. I have hoarding tendencies. So
listen, if I was not married to my wife and I did not have the 2 new babies that we had 11 years ago, I would live in a very stark house. It would be very, very minimalistic. I would sleep on the floor, on the mattress. Like, I would have very minimal furniture.
So we are not in college anymore.
Do not need storage. I want, like, yes. I own a lot of movies, but I own almost all of them digitally now. I will say, and lots of people point this out, even owning them digitally, which I do, like, I own almost everything through Apple, and I feel fairly confident that Apple would not just yank something out of my library. And if they did, I feel confident that they would recoup me in some way for that. However, it's true. And every time somebody says it, I do get a little panic mode. They're like, if you don't have physical copies of these movies, you don't own them.
Yeah.
Like,
your digital shit could disappear anytime.
Yeah, man. Streaming especially is the one. But even out of people's like Kindle libraries, they've like gone and edited 1984 or something. And
that's fucking bananas. That is fucking bananas.
And that was all before we lived in a dystopia, actually.
Oh, Jesus Christ. God bless.
Anyway,
thank God we have these witches to distract us.
Yeah. So, okay. So back to the size of these books. He's asking specifically. Sorry, we got sidetracked. Steven says, I'm not complaining. It is just they look a little out of place next to Blackwood Farm, Realms of Atlantis, or Memnoch the Devil. Have you ever seen them at the larger size? Interview with the Vampire and Blood Canticle specifically he's asking about. Part of me feels like I made a mistake thinking the smaller ones were right. If you can relate your experience with these, I would appreciate the comparison. Okay, so Blood Canticle, I am like 99.9% sure that I was there for day 1 of it, and mine is full size. So I don't think the first edition is a small one.
But, it could be a first edition of that particular, like, style of printing.
That's a good point. Maybe there was like a limited edition or something in a different cover or something like that. Now, for interview, I can't say to the first edition. The version that I remember most, and the one that I read the first time, was the full-size hardback with the gold
cover.
Foil cover.
Yeah. The gold dust jacket.
Yeah, dust jacket. That's the one that is like,
Jesus.
It's not that big.
It's been so long. The month's been long. January.
But yeah, that gold dust jacket is the one that I remember. That's the one that I read first. I had to fight the librarian to get a copy of, and then
an adult needs to approve of this, Joel.
I got my adult card over that book. She was like, just go ahead and give him a card so we don't have to have this discussion again.
So we don't have to have this talk. We don't limit what our children read.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, he says, oh yes. So please give us feedback on that. And especially, I know we've got some people in the book industry in our group and listenership. So let us know. What is Steven working with there? Are those even more special editions that he needs to keep a hold of? And does anybody have a good read on those 2 books in full size to make his shelf look balanced? Also, I like this. He hashtagged that message to us with Dark Shadows Forever. So kudos, Steven.
I'm also a Dark Shadows fan. Excellent.
Appreciate you. Man, I just watched some more Dark Shadows today, actually, for the episodes that'll come out next week for YouTube. And goodness gracious, that show goes interesting places. Like, it's so crazy. You have to remind yourself sometimes that it's a daily soap opera. And so, like, any given episode might be a real snooze fest, because it's like they got to stretch this stuff out to get to Friday.
It was just a Tuesday, Joel. Calm down. Yeah. Like, you don't have any cliffhangers from Friday to clean up.
We won't go into specifics here from individuals, but I will say, Ashley, our little pep talk that we gave last week about politics, we've already mentioned it a couple of times here, I guess, but I didn't get a single piece of bad feedback about it.
I didn't
which
read
I was
anything
I had
bad
my fingers
either.
crossed.
I was
No.
too.
And we got lots of positive feedback of people
Yeah.
like, hey, I needed that actually. Or, boy, I've sort of been trying to do that same thing myself. And a couple of people that gave an example of like something they're doing for themselves to help
Yes.
get through everything. So I'm glad that hit for people. And genuinely, that Ashley and I are feeling it. And we figured if we are, somebody else might too. So we wanted to, we're all in this together.
We're all
That's
in this
my point.
together. And even if, no matter, here we are. Here we are, friends. Here we are. Grab hands and hold on.
That is good suggestion for your watch of Mayfair Witches, I would say.
Also,
grab hands
and hold on.
Hold on.
Jesus Meesus.
Bend over and kiss your ass goodbye. Okay, let's jump into this thing because there's a lot in this episode, honestly. I do feel like it's interesting to me. Right up off the top, just big stuff. I love that they sort of ended up doing a bottle episode again.
Yeah.
They did one last year when Rowan got caught in the thrall and they were just stuck in the house the whole episode. But to do it this week where you actually have two different sets of cast members in two different bottles, basically. It was really fun, honestly. And I'm sure it saved their budget to not having to travel to 19 different sets or whatever.
Absolutely. You know? And I really loved the dollhouse thing. The
pub that Julian is in. That whole set is cool, but having the dollhouse where they're watching it. First of all, it super reminded me of Beetlejuice. I think probably it was even 100%. Sort of, yeah, it had to be a little reminiscent of that with when they're conceiving it. They're like, it's like the table in Beetlejuice.
Like, where's the brothel?
Yeah, right. Julian would have built one, I guarantee you.
100%. It wouldn't say girls, 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 though. It would say girls, girls, boys, ladies.
Yes. Okay. So this episode starts right where last one left off. Rowan's taken the potion and she's going into the trance to get into the Victrola. She gets in there to talk and Ashley, he's just a poor weak old man. He's just so feeble.
Oh, I'm in my chair. Strong men also cry.
That's literally what I thought. I was like, this is the Big Lebowski booing over Honey.
It's so funny.
Bunny. He's very confused. He's cold. He's so cold. Will you please stoke the fire? I do think, though, it's funny to me how quickly she just gets over it and just like, all right, pull me out. Like she doesn't.
Right. She's like, hey, I'm not getting shit out of this guy.
I mean, let's assume that this is real. Like, why not take advantage of the doddering old man then and try to squeeze him for some info would be my thing. But she dives right back out.
I don't know why she didn't stick around for a little while. Clearly, you saw fucking Dolly Jean dancing around the room. So like he has been up and on his feet. He is choosing this path that he is on. He's choosing this version of himself to show you, obviously.
Yeah, clearly. And I mean, later in the episode we get the split of head and heart, but like right here I'm like, you ain't using your head already, Rowan. You left it behind.
Yeah, no.
But she comes back out and she gets Moira to pull her out. She says, throw me the rope, and Moira's listening for that. Okay, now I'm gonna get in there and take care of this. So they get her out, but very quickly the viewer realizes Rowan's still in the pub with Julian, Ashley.
Yeah, she's still in there, and she's watching herself in the tiny dollhouse. A tiny version of herself. I actually really liked this idea. I thought it was really kind of cool and fun. It was kind of fun to see her playing two different sides of her character, like and one side that's more like Rowan than we probably have seen in a while. So I really kind of enjoyed the way that they set this episode up. There's some weird shit I don't enjoy in this episode, but I really kind of liked how they set it up. I also really liked Moira in this episode. I like her a lot. I'm digging this actress. I'm digging the character. I like her a lot.
I do too. Like she is I think she's absolutely the best thing about this season so far. I think Lark is high up there too.
Yeah.
And he gets some good work in this episode too.
Yeah.
I will say I like very much mostly what they've done with Julian in this episode as well. It turns out there's some good stuff there.
Yeah, and also still haven't seen or heard Buffalo Bill.
No, it's a
Not
totally
once,
different thing that he's
guys.
doing.
It's crazy. I can't figure out what the fuck he's doing with his voice.
No, it's a strange accent that he's doing, and I will say it was fairly consistent in this episode.
It was more consistent.
But it's not pinpointable,
It's
and
not
I don't.
identifiable at all.
Yeah, I think he's trying to do Scottish. It's got a heavy Scottish influence, but that
it does
not make sense for who Julian is.
No.
Julian should speak with anything. If anything, he should speak with a Cajun accent, like a little bit of Cajun French. And I mean, I guess what they're implying here is that in his lifetime, he actually spent so much time in Scotland. He was reinforced with whatever accent they are saying that he had originally. But again, you have to, like, I don't care how they've squeezed the timeline. Julian wasn't born in Scotland.
No.
So like,
no, he was not.
No. So I don't, but other than that though, the costuming on him, the way that he moves, I thought was very, very good, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, he's doing some really good things with the character in this episode. And it makes me wonder, like, why give me 3 versions of Julian effectively, and only the third one is sort of like kind of what we want?
Yeah, kind of what we can recognize. It's all a little strange. I mean, where this episode is taking us is strange. Like but we'll get to it.
So what's happened here is, and he tells her very plainly, you have to ask my permission to leave the Victrola.
You can't just leave.
Which, and again, this is not really something that is in the books, but I do kind of like the idea of a witch having like their place of power, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Julian has concentrated what's left of his essence or his soul or his
energy,
being or whatever.
Yeah.
What he's got left is in this Victrola. And so the room, as they said in the last episode, he's been there a long time. He's built many rooms.
Yeah.
And so the idea that he's built a space and like there are laws that govern that space that he's in control of, I dig that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that he would taunt Rowan in this way. Like, again, if you're so far, we're going with the idea that all of this stuff has basically been Julian's idea. Julian's been the architect of all of the family's ills. And if that's the case, well, then clearly he's going to lock up the one threat to everything playing out like he wants it to.
Absolutely.
And with what we find out at the end of the episode, it makes even more sense that he would just, I can sideline Rowan completely. Mm-hmm. And this stuff will all happen without her even being around now.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I dug it. I honestly dug it. I don't know exactly that I dig where they're going with it all, but this step in it, I really, really enjoyed, honestly.
Yeah. They made some interesting choices in this episode that I did not hate, that were actually like interesting creative choices too, that weren't just, like the most obvious creative choice a person could make.
So when we realize finally that it is a bottle episode, she's got 40 minutes. Julian tells her the hourglass is still turned, and so the sand is still falling. And by the time it falls, if she's not a whole person, then she'll die.
She's dead.
It's never specifically said, but my understanding is that both versions of her would die, right? It's not like she'd be a half person.
No,
I think
she'd disappear from there and she'd drop dead in the tiny
in the
house.
real world. Yeah, absolutely. All right, interesting. So that's our stakes for the episode. Yeah, and it's pretty good stakes, honestly. So I started calling them for a little while. I called them Real Rowan inside the Mind Palace with Julian and Shadow Rowan on the outside, because for the longest time I was convinced the reveal was going to be that he was puppeting her out there.
Yeah, I kind of thought that was going to be the case too. I really, really kind of did. It was weird to see like her being so, like, she was so squeamish about the blood and things like that and his wound. I was like, this is so out of her character completely.
Okay, the moment when she grabs Lark and kisses him the very first time, I was like, that's Julian in there. She don't grab people and kiss people like that.
Not the version of Rowan we've seen.
And it wasn't the version of Rowan we've seen, but it does play out a little bit differently than I thought it was going to at first.
Yeah.
But I like this. So right away they're trying to figure out, okay, how do I get anything out of him? He was, old and confused and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, maybe the whole setup was telling you something. Maybe he was trying to give you information like where he was. Where were you? So they finally figure out, okay, we're in a pub. It was kind of decorated like Scotland. And Cortland says, well, the Mayfairs are from Scotland. We come from Donalaith.
Here's my ancestry.com.
Right. Moira tells Cortland that he's been there before. And Cortland's like, oh, no, Donalaith is a legendary place of myths and magic. Yeah, you've been there. You went there as a kid. Cortland's like, well, how can you remember something I don't remember? I thought this was interesting, too. And again, like, we bemoaned it from the very beginning with Moira. The idea that you're going to put like an actual mind reader in the show feels like a cheat. And they continue to use it like a cheat.
Yeah.
But at least they're using it in interesting ways. Like making Cortland be so vulnerable in this episode is a cool turn from how he's been a villain and a manipulator all along.
When he's and when at the core he's also been manipulated and lied to, and it's like, it's the same cycle of abuse. He's just carrying on what was given to him.
Yeah. I don't know. I liked it. I thought it worked. So Moira takes him back. Or are they like, hey, we're going to figure this out. I can unlock these memories with you. They start talking about that. Dolly Jean tells them that Julian had memory erasing potions.
Yeah.
Okay.
On like a little recipe card.
Yeah. Well, here's my thing though. Why do they keep inventing new ways to do date rape in this show? Like this is like the third magical date rape drug that they've shown us.
Why? Yeah. They do like to fuck with people's memories.
The character in the books who does all the raping, they're like, no. It was consensual. He very specifically asked.
Yeah, he made sure they were interested.
She wanted to do this.
Oh. Let's drug everyone else, though.
Yeah, I mean, there are other ways to use magic, y'all. That's all I'm saying. Like protection spells. We could just go to protection spells or something.
Yeah. That's like even a common use in like modern witchcraft.
So, okay, one of the things just generally I feel like this show does pretty clumsily, even in an episode that I really did enjoy. But here's a perfect example. Moira can read Rowan's mind suddenly. Mm-hmm. And they state that early. Oh, wow, I can read your mind now. Wow, that's crazy.
But no one seems concerned about it.
Nobody is like, I wonder why that happened. And does it have anything to do with the huge magical thing that you just did with the great big dead wizard?
Yeah, ma'am, you were just in a record player with your old dead uncle.
Your grandfather, by the way, also.
Oh, your uncle grandfather.
Yeah. So, like, I don't know. I feel like this show lays out lots of mysteries, but they are like the clumsiest, most obvious mysteries available. And you and I do not watch like the NCISs and the CSIs of the world as a regular thing. Is this just mainstream TV? Are all shows like this?
Did all shows think we're stupid?
I feel like this show thinks its audience is stupid. And I mean, maybe some of them are. I don't know. I don't know.
We don't know. I think that, yeah, they do. And it is all the little cheats they're using, all the little, like, very obvious explanations for things, all the, like, easy, low-hanging fruit choices that they tend to make on this show does make me feel like they're like, let's keep it simple for the simples.
I mean, there's a whole lot of, well, Ashley, as you know, you and I attended college together at Louisiana Tech University.
Yes, we did.
It was many years ago.
It was many years ago. I've been 3 different people since then, at least.
I don't know. It's just like that. When they said that out loud, I was like, oh, okay, well, we're going to get right to it. And the real crux of this episode will be something else.
Yeah,
and then it took them forever to circle back to maybe Rowan is not herself.
Maybe it's weird I can read your brain. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe it's weird that Rowan spills her guts completely to Lark and tells him everything.
Okay.
We're getting ahead.
No, that was one of my favorite. I was like, y'all, she was literally she in the kitchen 30 seconds ago. She was like, I'm gonna wipe that dude's whole life away. Don't even worry about it. And then she goes in there and she's like, let me tell you
everything I know.
He's an alien, probably.
My witch family.
And I'm the portal through which he was born.
He is my baby and also my lover. He is both the father of himself and the child that I had. I don't know what any of that means.
My own grandpa.
Oh, that's a very Mayfair thing. I'm my own grandpa.
Yes. Okay, so Moira tells us that she had actually done some of this once upon a time with Deidre.
Mm-hmm.
Her mom had taken her to, I guess, the house to see Deidre, and they had kind of pieced some memories together and gotten some things straight for the family. Which, I mean, like, is fine. I guess if she has this power, surely it would have come up. But it's weird that none of that ever came up in season 1.
Right.
Like when the doctor, I don't know, I guess it's like one person not talking to another.
Or not just not having a plan. Like, not, I mean, this feels like
that's what this is.
It's
It's just clumsy.
We don't have a plan. We don't have an overarching plan. It's not like, that's why this doesn't feel like Interview feels, because we know those guys are like, we've got a plan and here it is. They're like, we're going to tell you some of our plan, you know, and these folks are like, is there a map? Can we get the Cliff Notes?
When you start your pitch for the job, though, with season 3, right? Like, which was Rollins' deal, is like, let me tell you what I'll do with the rock star, but not first.
But not first. First we'll do these
we
things.
Go backwards. Yeah. Anyway, this was not that. Like, and it doesn't make any sense when you think about it, because there are 3 great books and 2 or 3 other crossover books that all have wonderful storylines already laid out for you. Like, you should know where the story is going, and yet you don't take advantage of that. I don't know, man. Like, there's not, this isn't Wins a Winner. There's not another one you're waiting on to get the point, you know?
I mean, yeah.
Okay, so Moira is going to do that same thing, though, that she did for Deidre. She's going to do it with Cortland, and part of that is he needs to kind of be doped up. They're like, hey, we got Deidre's drugs in the house. No problem.
Yeah, it helps if your brain's a little foggy. Let's drug Cortland.
So Julian and Rowan, meanwhile, are getting pretty chummy inside the Mind Palace. So Julian tells Rowan he let Lasher take his body over many times. It's funny. He's like, I could tell you of the times. He goes, actually, I couldn't. I don't remember anything.
I'd wake up just covered in horse piss and bloody knuckles.
Bloody knuckles. That's the thing that made me. I was like, oh man. He was just beating the shit out of somebody, right?
Yeah.
For no good reason, probably, because it feels, hey, I don't know what it's like to punch somebody in the face, actually.
I mean, it's like I say all the time, if I had a penis for a day, that I would do everything with it. And I think that's probably the spirit Lasher has when he gets to be in a body. Like, he's like, I'll put it everywhere. That's what I would do with my penis. I would put it in all the things.
Speaking of putting penises in things, Lark is at the house, Ashley.
Lark's there. Shows up.
It's drawn magnetically. He's got some interesting news for Rowan, which she promptly decides to date rape magic out of his brain. Just like, let's get rid of all of that. Don't even worry about it.
I mean, he did steal her DNA, but
okay.
It is open game if you leave it there. Like that, the cops can take it. It's like it's trash now. You left it behind. Now I can get your DNA off of it.
I will say that is like, you know how we talked about the age gap between Moira and Cyprian is literally as far as it could be without making it weird. Okay.
Yeah.
This is as far apart 2 pieces of an argument that I could imagine to sort of almost make it okay that he stole my DNA and tested me. When he comes to tell me that I've got 4 chromosomes that humans don't have, and it matches that sample from the, it's like, okay, let's park the betrayal and we'll get back to that later.
Yeah.
But like, tell me more about the chromosomes.
More about these chromosomes, eh? And I do like the part where she's like showing off her magic trick of being able to tell what's wrong with him, and like, oh, your arm has been broken, and your back's fucked up. You know, like she's treating her magic really casually, like a parlor trick, pretty much.
And it wears her out too, which I feel like, oh, there's your comeuppance for showing off. Like,
right.
You don't have the juice, lady. Currently,
you need to sit down and chill.
It did that. So, and I feel, and again, I don't know if this is a direct reference, but her running down all of his like list of injuries and like asking about them, it reminds me of that like fantastic scene in Jaws, where they're
talking about the scars.
Like, lots of other movies have mimicked that now, but like, it's so good. It's so good. And see, that is an example of like character development right there in the script. We learned so much about those three people from simple little one moment observations that also would make sense for them to share in that moment instead of the, well, Ashley, as you know, we went to college together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
we could tell
there's a good way to do this and there's a cheap way to do this. And so often this show leans on the cheap way to do it, which is like, it's fine, but it could have been better.
I feel like it's like they're feeling rushed. Like it's
yes,
almost
which
like
is
they
weird.
feel rushed about like moving this story along, which is exactly where Game of Thrones fucked up, which was going too fast and leaving out too much good of the source material. Like when you brought up Winds of Winter, I almost vomited because I'm still like, where the fuck is my book? Anytime I see George R.R. Martin has done anything else, I'm like, look here, asshole, you owe me 2 books, motherfucker.
I'm 100% with you. I can't get excited about like this year we're going to get the Dunk and Egg spinoff, the whatever, A Knight of the Realm or something is the name of that one, A Knight of the Kingdom or something. And then, I mean, I haven't gotten into House of Dragon yet because I'm just like,
you owe me 2 books, asshole.
I want the end is what I want. I want your end. And like, even if I'm genuinely convinced that his end was basically the show end, and since everybody didn't like it, he's just spinning his wheels until he can come up with a new one.
Or he's going to wait
that's
to
what
publish
happens.
these until he's dead.
I mean, yeah,
so he doesn't
and then
have to
won't
hear
matter
about it. Yeah.
He could just tease another advance out of the publisher, I'm sure.
But this is how this is feeling. It's like they're rushing the story along, but we don't even know what the story really.
Well, okay. In this episode, we hear a lot more about the Taltos, and to me, the idea that you get anything other than like maybe a stray mention before the 3rd or 4th season of this show is way too early. There's so much good witch stuff before it becomes a story about Lasher's incarnation, honestly. Yeah. Like there's literally hundreds of years of good witch stories that could all be interesting and sexy and compelling, and there's intrigue and all of that stuff. I am still convinced that if AMC's overall investment in this pays off for them, but this show peters out early, I'm still convinced we're going to get a spinoff that is a prequel, and we'll get, I mean, for instance, you've cast Julian now, right? Like, okay, give us some Julian stories when he's alive and not stuck in his Victrola.
Yeah, or cast someone to play a young Julian, and we can do
That's what I really want. That's what I'm like, do it again. Do it better.
Let's do a little do-over. I'd like to see the Witching Hour, please.
All these people that tell me like, hey, the Vampire Diaries is really good, but the originals is great. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that then. Mayfair Witches is fine, but the Mayfair Witch family history is, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
I don't give it.
Whatever.
Lives of the Mayfair Witches. Okay, there's my rant. I'll get off my soapbox. It was much less impressive than your last one.
I think I dragged you up there. It's fine.
Okay, yeah, so Rowan's just like spilling the whole thing to Lark. She tells him everything. She's like, hey, I made this baby. He's an ongoing spirit that's been stuck to my family for generations and generations.
Here's a quick
was born
recap.
And he grew up immediately and like blah blah blah. I can heal people when he's close to me.
He's
like
really
tells him
he's really into milk.
And he killed people, like the whole 9 yards. Lark knows it all. Lark buys this shit so quickly, Ashley. Yeah. Like I would have had a few questions.
Yeah. He's not like, maybe it's because he's already seen the weird DNA that he's like, I'm going to accept what you tell me. But yeah, I would have questions. It's like part of Lark is stuck somewhere. Like the part of him that should be curious and like wonder what the fuck.
Oh, I just have a note here that Julian and Rowan are talking about love. I thought that was really interesting. Like Julian in particular, first of all, he cuts her off at one point and he's like, no lover took me to Donalaith. But before that, and again, this is just a good example of like, they're doing things here and the actor really is doing the work, honestly. There are glimpses of what we imagined of Julian. This guy's still clearly the bad guy. He's the villain here, and he's manipulating the shit out of Rowan in this moment.
Right.
But also, he's charismatic, and he's compelling, and he is a dandy, and
yeah,
you get glimpses.
Interesting. I'm interested.
Yeah.
I think he was. I've been openly skeptical about this actor playing this role, but he really killed it this episode. The accent aside, I'm so confused, but I feel like he's been directed to do that. I don't think that's his fault.
And
but
again,
I'm glad he doesn't sound like I'd rather him have a weird accent that I can't place anywhere than him sound like fucking Buffalo Bill.
Yes. I think it all goes into, I think it was like they decided that we're going to rush to this end game in Scotland.
Yeah.
And so because of that, we're going to reinforce that and remind everybody that Julian's whole thing is this Scotland, because he's got this vague brogue going for him, which is just, it doesn't work. It's the one part of his characterization here that I really don't care for.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so we get a picture of Marguerite Mayfair.
Ooh, this was kind of cool.
I thought so too.
I thought she looked really cool, and
she's like coming alive in the painting almost. Yeah.
But not like in a Harry Potter world kind of way. It was like it felt, and I'm gonna say it felt magic, but it felt like magic was working. There was magic happening.
Well, and it makes sense if you remember where we are, right? We're in a mental construct of Julian's. So of course the painting would move in a memory that he has of Marguerite in some particular way. So Marguerite is the one that took Julian to Donna Lath. And Julian starts going on this little rant about how they would worship the old gods. And Ashley, I was like, are they going to make this a Cthulhu thing? And then Rowan uses the name Taltos, and Julian says, yes. Okay, we'll save the full spoiler until the end of this discussion for anybody who hasn't read the books. But I'll just say here, the Taltos are not the old gods. The Taltos are. They're not Cthulhu and whatnot.
No, they're just their own little race of things, people.
Yeah. We'll talk more about that at the end of this episode, because I do want to get into that specifically. But since we've recently been called out about spoiler discussions, if you're not a book reader, you can skip that at the end. Okay, but he confirms, though, that that's what we're talking about here. They were worshiping the Taltos. And when I say they, I mean Marguerite and Julian. And one imagines, like, that goes back the inner circle of the family. Not every witch has even been in on it, I don't think. Like and this is kind of designee.
Like, it's sort of like the vibe that the books have about Lasher. Like it's like, okay, the very, very, like, the 13 witches would know about the Taltos piece of it, whereas the whole family might not, whereas in the books it's Lasher. The whole family doesn't know about Lasher. It's just like the designee and the people closest to them and that sort of thing. So like we've said before, like the rest of the family refers to him, when they refer to him at all, as either the man or the tall man, because many of them have seen a man on the premises of the house at the house, hanging out with Deidre,
because it's a haunted house. Like, and that's all they're like, oh, it's just a haunted house,
Yeah, no big deal. NBD, we're in New Orleans.
Yeah, the idea that they're all like waiting on the incarnation of their demon familiar is not like the books at all. It is interesting. So at least they've now given, like you said, that inner circle, they've given it a different meaning, but there is a smaller group of the actual in the know family members. And it's a small group of, like, nobody since Julian has really been in the know, it turns out.
Probably by choice. Definitely by his choice, because he's erased Cortland's memories.
Oh, yeah. So he erased a lot of Cortland's memories, apparently. So Cortland is worried about these drugs that he's on now to help him be able to remember. But that just shows that they're working. I love that he's having his little freak out, though. He's like, is my heart supposed to be racing like this?
I love it.
Oh, my stomach's upset, Cher.
That happened to a friend of mine who had too much of an edible one time. It's exactly what it reminded me of. I was like, oh, you're too high. Oh, buddy, that brownie was too much for you.
Man, there was a really good episode of The Connors, the sequel spinoff, whatever, of Roseanne, where Dan takes a gummy, and it was like 15 or 20 minutes, and he hadn't felt anything yet. So he took another one.
Yeah, that's
and
always how you
then both of them kicked in at the same time, and he was hungry, so he ate the rest of them.
Oh, shit.
And he's, so his sister-in-law is like, oh my God, Dan, come sit down. He's like, I can't walk. My feet are on wrong.
Oh my God. Yeah. That is exactly what happens. That's too many, buddy. That's too many.
It will happen for sure.
Okay, now I caught something and I went back and I turned the subtitles on to make sure I heard what I thought I heard. But he's going on and he's kind of complaining, and Moira's like, I'd be worried if you weren't immortal.
Yes. Okay. I think they said offhandedly, I don't believe we're supposed to take that literally. I think what we are supposed to mean it. First of all, I think he's older than he looks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think just like we've found now that Ancient Evelyn can appear very youthful, I think Cortland has a little bit of that magic going on himself. And it would make sense, no matter how they might have squeezed Julian's lifetime, if Cortland is Julian's son and was old enough to like go on trips with him when Julian was a young man and in charge of the family, then he would need to be older than he should look.
Yeah.
Here. Like he looks like maybe if you want to be very charitable to the show, you could say he's a youthful, like 70, I guess you could say. Harry Hamlin don't look 70, y'all. And he don't act 70. And like, he doesn't comport himself that way in the family. You got to remember in season 1, he was going to sex parties still.
Yeah,
like,
that's true. There were snakes.
But also I think specifically she means he ran into Rowan as an adversary in season 1 and she defeated him, and yet he didn't die out of it. She just locked him up, and now he's out of the statue again and he's free, and now he's part of this whole thing. And she's like, you're immortal. Like, I would be worried about you, but you're fine. Nothing can touch you.
I was like, that's such a throwaway, and nothing is indicated that he is immortal.
No, I don't think she means literally.
She said it, so I was really like.
But the show's so clumsy, you don't know for sure, right?
No.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you can't tell whether it's just her making a jab. I think it was a jab. Okay, so we finally hear for sure here. Julian confirms it that Rowan has been split. Mm-hmm. Her head has been left behind in the Victrola with Julian, and her heart is out there on the outside with the rest of the party, and Lark specifically, which makes sense because she's been slobbering all over him.
Right. All over him.
She's basically like, when you move in here and we remodel this house and we raise all the babies, like it's going to be so much fun, Lark.
Yeah. It's like a broken version of horny Rowan.
Well, even Lark, like, listen, Lark is enjoying it. Don't get me wrong.
Right, but he's like...
But he knows from early on, I think, that something is different about her.
Yeah.
He didn't have the frame of reference like everybody else did, that she had just come out of the ghostly Victrola. You know?
He didn't know that she was in a secret dead wizard's magic place.
Yeah. If Lark had known that she had been in the room of requirement before she walked in,
he might have been more concerned.
He would have spoken up. He'd be like, "Hey guys, she's been weird since she came out of that magical encounter, right? Do you think maybe the wizard did something to her while she was in there?
While she was in there?
Is it possible?
Maybe the magic potion she drank to go in there was bad. I don't know. Something's off."
So, okay, this idea, though, that they have, I think is fucking brilliant. I don't remember anything like this happening in the books, but it totally could have. It's been so long since I read Lasher. The romantic, horny part of Rowan is with Lark, and they're trying to figure out if they can grow enough Lasher in a vat to give Rowan back her power.
That's right.
It's so damn smart, though. Like, yes, of course he can replicate the cells, and he can make them grow. Okay, fine. Can I get enough of them?
We have these teeth that he ripped out of his face. 2 episodes
Can I get
ago.
enough of them together to juice you up? And like you can carry, we said a drive-by lash ring last week. She's like, no. I'm going to put Lasher in a can.
Yeah, a purse full of Lasher. Just a purse full of Lasher.
It would totally work though, I think. Although it doesn't work exactly once they get started here. But I don't think they've let it grow long enough. I think that's the problem.
Yeah, no. They're just into the process when he cuts his hand open like a big dummy.
Okay, I will say though here, I fell head over heels in love with Lark. I was already enjoying him, but he's my dude now because he accurately asks if they need to take a streetcar to the closest lab.
Yes!
He doesn't say trolley.
Thank you, sir.
Good job, Lark. Somebody referred to a local and said, what do you call these magical things that drive by?
What are these things that drive by and go clang, clang?
Clang, clang with
it's not a trolley.
Not the trolley, motherfucker.
It's not the trolley.
Yeah, I was just blown away though by how quickly he bought into all of this. Although I do wonder, is it like is there a little bit of just general magic going on in the house? Is that what they're trying to say? Like,
I mean,
anything's possible in the Mayfair mansion, you know?
Well, or it could just be that he cares for her so much that he's like willing to overlook the weirdness because it's working in his favor right now.
That's a good call too. Yeah, you're right though. He cut himself like so badly. Can we just grow a lasher ball and won't you be able to heal me? And she's like, yeah, I guess so. That'll probably work. Yeah.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Okay. I'm not wrong in thinking this was a direct reference though to a Silence of the Lambs joke, right? This next scene, we get our flashback with Cortland.
Oh my God. I was like, I'm fighting against my brain going there so hard, and yet here you are making me go there.
I mean, it has, listen, the whole thing with Hannibal and Clarice is he makes her relive the memory where her father was slaughtering lambs, and she could hear.
Her uncle was her.
Oh,
her
uncle.
Dad
That's right.
had died.
That's
it was
right.
at her aunt and uncle's farm, slaughtering the spring lambs. She could hear them screaming.
And I mean, it's literally what Cortland is reliving here and he doesn't know why. At first, he just sees the pretty little girl, and then there's the scary boy, and you're like, why is he scary? But when we come back to it, the reason he's scary is because that boy killed all the lambs in the meadow or whatever, and then killed the little girl too.
And then Shocker killed the little girl.
I mean, that was a very little shock. Once they showed a pretty redheaded girl, I was like, she's gonna die on
she's
an altar.
Toast.
Feel like. Once they showed the big slabs of rock, I was like, those are altars, friend, and things are going to die on them.
Nice table rocks there. That's a bad day.
Yeah, right?
A good day if you like lamb chops, though,
okay,
I guess.
This is not in the book. And again, I'm just saying, like, you can't have, what is the actor's name playing Julian?
Buffalo Bill.
Yeah.
God, what is his name?
Ted Levine.
Ted Levine, yeah.
Yeah, Ted Levine's he's in a ton of stuff. He was in the new Manchurian Candidate in 2004. He's been in the Fast and the Furious.
He's aging really nicely.
Really well. Genuinely.
Like, I'm looking at a current picture of him, and he looks fantastic.
Yeah, he's born in 57. He's the same age as my mom. But I mean, like, he was in Shutter Island. He was in American Gangster. He's in Heat. I always forget he's in Heat. Yeah, he's so good in that.
Well,
too.
it's really hard to remember him in anything because my brain turns him into a serial killer.
Yes, you go straight to Buffalo Bill. Anyway, Ted Levine, this has got to be a joke. This has got to be, well, we've got Ted Levine in this thing.
Well,
and
it'd be crazy to not, make a joke. Everyone's been joking about it. We might as well joke about it. Yeah,
it is so strange that they make it Cortland's trauma, though.
And you guys, none of that is in the book.
No.
None of this. Just this is where I started going like, what the fuck are we doing in Scotland?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was sort of surprised by it all. But we find out. Ian is the name of the boy, and Ian has killed all these lambs. Ian slaughtered the girl. The whole thing was a contest to see which one of them would serve the old gods best, Cortland or Ian. Why were they being paired off and competing with each other, Ashley?
I don't know. That's a terrible thing to make two people do. Oh, wait, it's a secret son. You got a secret family in Scotland, Julian?
Julian's got a whole secret second family.
Y'all, let's talk about this. There's a whole fucking family they're not using.
Yeah.
Why'd we make a whole secret second family?
I don't know, man.
That's not in the books.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I see what they're doing here in the show is they're going to give us a bunch of new villains. Effectively, we can root against all these people because we don't know them, right?
Right.
And so now Harry Hamlin becomes one of the good guys, and even Julian could potentially be, brought over as one of the. I mean, this is the Fast and the Furious thing, right? You make a guy the villain, and then at the end of that movie, he becomes part of the team.
Yeah, well, because
they've done it like 19 times.
It could be that your secret son Ian might have been taking all of this a little too far by now,
right?
That
I didn't mean it like that.
That may be the point we've gotten to in our current time period. We'll have to see.
But again, that's not. I just feel like this is unnecessary. And if you had built out enough of the Mayfair family properly to be interesting and compelling characters, there were plenty of stories to tell there without having it. Again, there are 3 good books to start, and then there are 3 crossover books that you could have gotten to eventually. And they're like, hey, but what about a secret family?
How about a secret Scottish family for Julian? You know what Julian has time for? A secret family in another country. No, he does not.
He's got lots of secret families on the other side of New Orleans, right? Like Julian spread his seed quite a bit, friends. And as our good friend Lestat, he was non-discriminating.
Non-discriminating, very non-discriminating, which we applaud, but my God.
He likes the wine, not the label.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
All right. So Dolly Jean starts telling Rowan what's what, and she says, Rowan, we're not going to wipe out tonight. We're going to wipe you completely from Larks. He's not going to know who you are.
She was like, oh no, but I love him.
I did not expect the memory potion to be like that. Like she says, even like these guys would come to collect on debts, and by the time they'd leave, they'd be like, why did I even go to the Mayfair house? Right. But apparently they were like, Julian who?
Yeah. Who owns this house? Where am I? Yeah, exactly. It's like the last Spider-Man movie. Spoiler alert.
Yes.
In order to turn things back, everyone who knows you're Spider-Man has to forget. And now we're going to spend the next 2 episodes undoing that shit.
You're right. So Rowan was going to do it. She was like, okay, I guess. And then she knocks the mug with the drink in it out of Lark's hand. And she just is like, no, we're not going to do that at all. And I'm going to bring you with us to help us, and everything's going to be fine. Except she's fainting. She's like almost dying now suddenly. And they all remember, boy, you have been different the last 40 minutes or so, haven't you?
Wait, remember at the very beginning of the episode when Moreira said, hey, I can read your mind now. Weird, right? This is where she brings it back up.
It was too convenient to me. It was like, oh, and our time is up. Let's wrap the episode up real quick. Get her out of the record
player.
So she goes back into the record player and becomes a whole person again, except she doesn't actually go in. It's literally like she starts the process and just pulls her other half out. Yeah. Which I didn't. I wish she'd gone in there and gotten a final conversation with Julian. I thought that was the way that you wrap it up. He tells you, like her, you solved my house puzzle, but you won't solve my Lasher puzzle or whatever.
It's the best escape room I could come up with. She is, I do like that inside, the real Rowan inside there with Julian is like, I will have that drink now, actually. I think I'm about to get my ass out of here. And she's like able to kind of think through things and is like, oh, let me look at this bottle of whiskey. It might have some interesting information on it. Oh, really? A label?
It's a Mayfair label, which originates in Kilbride, Scotland.
My God, that's a real place.
I didn't look up whether Kilbride is a real place or not, but I got to tell you, to me, the name Kilbride was a little on the nose since we literally just watched a woman get sacrificed there.
That's true. That is very true.
I was like, okay. I really thought this would be the end of the episode, but it's not. We get a flash to Lasher. He's in Scotland. He's at a castle. Albrecht is with him. And Albrecht is called out into the hallway by Ian Mayfair.
Oh, Ian. Ian's broad-shouldered, too. I was like, Ian.
Yeah, Ian is a big old boy. Hang on a minute. So I went down quite a bit of a rabbit hole. Ian Mayfair does not exist in the books, by the way.
No. No.
Okay, so the guy playing him is also named Ian. The actor's name is Ian Pyrie or Peary. He's been in quite a few things. This guy's got an interesting story. He is an untrained actor, or was an untrained actor. He literally turned professional in 1996 when he landed a role in the critically acclaimed West End revival of JC Superstar in London.
What?
Ashley, could you imagine walking off the street and getting a role? I'm assuming he was like, I don't know what he played, but then he understudied and played Jean Valjean in the London musical of Les Mis after
Holy
that.
Shit.
Homeboy's got pipes, is my guess.
Yeah, he does. Maybe they'll let him sing. But did they really name the character after the fucking actor playing him? They're like, that
They
is how
sure
little
did.
they were creative about this.
It's like they rolled him onto set like 5 minutes after they had cast him, and were like, "Just your name's Ian. It's fine. It's fine.
Here's a knife. Slit this guy's throat."
You're right. He's been in The Last Duel from 2021. He was in Miss Scarlet from 2022. He was in Guilt in 2021.
All right.
I'm trying to think what other big. There's a lot of like British series and stuff. Oh, he was in The Matrix Resurrections. Huh. As a lieutenant. That's interesting. Anyway, he's got a great look to him. Absolutely looks like a worthy adversary, a good villain for the last half of this season, right?
Big barrel-chested Scottish man. He's going to fuck you up.
Yeah, right? I mean, you wouldn't want to fight this dude, for instance.
He's very quick with the knife.
So the first thing about Ian is he calls Lasher Ashlar, Ashlar, which is from the books.
Yes.
And then the second thing about Ian is he straight up murderizes old Albrecht out in the hallway.
My God. Gagush.
Cuts him ear to ear.
Gagush. And just kicks him down the stairs. Like,
okay. I want to acknowledge, though, might be the best acting from Albrecht so far in this series. The look of surprise on his face when he gets his throat cut. It was perfect.
He was very surprised that went down. Yeah, you should be surprised when someone does that unexpected. Yeah, he's quite surprised. Well, and the funny thing is that Lasher's like, hey, man, don't go. Stay here with me. I don't want you to go. And he's like, nah, you'll be fine. He goes out in the hall and fucking dies.
Well, okay, and I will say this. We already know that Albrecht's been screwing with people's memory for a long time.
Yeah.
And he was a big part of this, like, ongoing whatever chess match with Julian, and now we know that Ian's been pulling the strings since Julian. It is so interesting to me that they have created this version of Cortland with Harry Hamlin, and now they have absolutely given him a get out of jail. Like, he killed Deidre to start this show, Ashley.
Yeah, you almost forget, don't you?
Well, I'm saying, you know damn well he is going to be on the side of the Angels the rest of this season, at least this season. And the way that they will do that is they'll give him Ian as an adversary, which, again, like, we want to talk about on the nose and clumsy, but like, okay, you bring the two brothers together to sacrifice to see which one pleases the gods more. Friends, that's Cain and Abel, y'all. That's literally the oldest story. That
one
is
of the oldest
first
stories.
one.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, you know. Yeah.
Anyway.
Turn your children against each other and all kinds of crazy shit happens. Have you seen Fall of the House of Usher?
Yeah, right. But it is interesting to me that, like, Cortland decided between these boys in their preteen days, early teenage days, and he chose one of them. And Ian, theoretically at least, led this conspiracy that has been going on. Meanwhile, Cortland was literally sidelined and mind wiped, and you forget the whole project, actually.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, though, is, too, that we know Cortland's had contact with Albrecht, so what's that about? You know, like,
you're just making him run, like, minor errands the last 30 or 40 years?
Or, like, are you keeping an eye on him to make sure he's forgotten? Like, what's the deal? What's the deal? You got to make sure he doesn't remember, because if he does, then he'll, you know, I don't know, he'll want to be involved. I don't know. I don't know this version of Cortland.
I don't know, man. All right, so we kick the can down the road to the end of the episode. We're kind of wrapping things up here. So let's talk a little bit about spoiler discussion on Taltos in particular.
Yeah.
And so if you are not a book reader and you don't want to be, or you want to save those things for yourself, then go ahead and say goodbye to us now. I'll just say watch episode 6 before you come back and see us next week, and go check the YouTube channel. I got some What You Missed in season 2 of Interview with the Vampire going up every week. So thank you for watching and listening. All right, now spoilers.
All right, now let's spoil this shit up.
Okay, the Taltos as what are being worshipped, it doesn't make much sense to me. Lots of people who are book readers have already said in the threads on our Facebook group, I'm confused about what they're angling towards here, because the Taltos are really not that magical. Like, in the books, they're not. They procreate like rabbits, right? And they grow very fast, but they're like brittle and thin, and they're not psychic or super strong, or
right.
I don't know why you would worship them as elder gods, is my point.
Yeah, it is a strange choice. Unless you know, like the simplicity of it just being, this is a different race of people, basically a different like version of or a different, not race, what's the word I want to use? A different
species
of people. So unless that's not a good enough story, you think in your head, like that's not a good enough, like it's got to be something bigger than that to make it matter, then I guess that might be why. But it is a weird choice to me. Julian's fake family is a weird choice to me.
Yeah.
It's all very strange. Now Ashler, what does he call him? Ashlar. So
I think he just says it Ashlar, but yeah, it's ASHLAR is how you spell it.
And that's in the books. And
yes.
that's genuinely where that's Lasher.
I think it is Lasher's. I believe it is Lasher's name from the novel. Like his
first
name when he was incarnated. Yes.
Yeah.
When he lived.
Yeah.
Yes.
When he was a person. Yeah. So I thought that part's really interesting. But Ian, who are you?
Yeah. Where are they angling towards is the thing. Like, again, the closest in my head, and I don't believe they ever actually used this terminology in the books at all, but I'm fairly certain that Anne has said it in interviews. I always read the Taltos as like Anne's take on the Fae. Like they're her version of the fairy people, right?
Right.
And in some version of the Fae, they're literally little.
There's a small version of them too. Like there's a small version of the Taltos.
There are small ones, yes.
Yeah. It's because I was on the one of the fandom wikis, and I was reading about that today because I couldn't remember all the ins and outs of it. But yeah, there's like a little offshoot of the Taltos that are small because they don't drink the embiggening milk from their mothers.
Yes.
It also makes it does make sense that Lasher's so fucking milk obsessed too. Like not getting the right kind, but like it does that. I'm like, oh yeah, well that actually makes that part make sense. So it's like a little Easter egg to fans, but like then you skip all of the. Why are you giving me Easter eggs instead of like what's on the page?
Yeah,
I'll take Easter eggs as extra. I want them as extra, not as like.
Well, okay, let's just use a very specific example from the Interview with the Vampire series. And again, no spoilers on this, but in season 1, in the first episode, we get the name of Magnus.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've gotten it a few times since then. We're going to see him in season 3.
Right.
We get the name of Akasha in season 2. We're going to see her in season 3. We get the phrase, those who must be kept, said kind of offhandedly in season 1, absentmindedly by someone. We're going to see them in season 3. But it's like, those are Easter eggs, because they are hints as to what's to come. Right. They're little foreshadowings of things that you're going to unfold. Whereas here, it's like we're playing word search with the books.
Yeah, that is exactly how it feels. 100%. I don't know,
and I'm upset because I genuinely enjoyed this episode, and yet where it's going, I don't understand how they're. I mean, look, maybe there is a good story to tell where the Taltos are more than they are in the books, and it is sort of like an elder being or something. But again, there's a good story in the books already about the Taltos. The idea of a prehistoric people that were basically like run out of Great Britain by encroaching humans.
Right.
Okay. That's an actual folklore story, and we've heard a few different versions over time. Tell us your version of it.
Right, cool. Exactly.
That doesn't seem to be where they're going here, though, even though they took us back to Scotland, and I'm worried it's going to go off the rails again, Ashley.
Oh, it's gonna. Well, we need to buckle up, bitches, because we are gonna go off the rails. I mean, because this trip to Scotland is completely arbitrary. Like we're just going to Scotland.
Well, I wonder like how many other Mayfairs are we going to meet over there too? It makes total sense now in retrospect. We kept getting these casting notices for season 2, and we were like, "Who's that? Who's that?" They invented a bunch of Mayfairs, is why we were so confused.
Mayfairs we don't know, named after their characters are going to be the same names as the actors.
It's
All
like
of it.
Ryan is a real one. He's had 2 lines in the show.
Right.
And Gifford was a real one, and they killed that chick in like 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Yep. Here we go.
Wham, bam. Goodbye, ma'am. Collect
Goodbye,
your
ma'am.
check on the way out.
Yes. Don't expect any residuals.
Oh, man. I don't know. This thing is going to stray. And I will say this. In our Patreon group, we asked people what next book should we read, and I really expected people would want us to go into Lasher or maybe do The Witching Hour. Overwhelmingly, people are like, full speed ahead in the Vampire Chronicles, go to Merrick, that's the next one.
All right.
So it looks like that will be our next book club, but I will say I think we're going to need to go Merrick, and then we'll need to do Lasher, because we need to refresh ourselves, and we also need to prepare ourselves for wherever this ends up going. I feel pretty confident at this point that this is going to get a season 3. AMC seems to buy into it. They are not wrapping up these stories. They are building towards something.
100%.
So like, yeah. I just don't know what that something's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to involve Taltos somehow, and we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I will say too, like, and again, no big spoilers, but like once the Taltos of it all comes out in the books, it is super divorced from the rest of the world. And it's like a couple of the witches cross over to the vampire books. But like, if you have sidelined all the witches effectively and you make the series about this new creature, I don't know where you go with that to bring all the rest of it in. I really don't.
No, because they run off into the sunset at the end of the book. And so I don't, no. We'll see.
I will say, I remembered this week, Ashley, that Mona Mayfair is one of those characters that ends up in the crossover books. And I got super excited thinking we're going to get Moira in the crossover.
Oh, that could be fake Mona.
Exactly. I'm down with that. You can bring her around.
I
That's
like
good.
her. I'm enjoying her. Yeah. She's fun.
Folks, that is our discussion of episode 5 of Mayfair Witches season 2. Time just keeps marching on.
It does
We've
indeed.
got 3 more episodes for this season. And then we will go into those aforementioned book club episodes. We're going to do a bunch of movie nights, a lot of fun stuff ahead for you. And then, of course, this year we should get Talamasca season 1.
Yeah.
We might get... maybe I still believe it's 2026, but it is possible theoretically that we could get Interview with the Vampire season 3 before the end of the year too. So we'll cross our fingers and all be very good boys and girls, and
behave yourselves.
Indeed. I mean, don't really behave yourselves.
No.
Get into some good trouble, but
be wickedly delicious.
Follow the rules of the coven.
That's right. Follow the rules of the coven. Exactly. We expect that of all of you.
Ask permission before you leave the Victrola.
Yes. Always ask permission before you leave the Victrola. Ask for consent before you have murderous sex.
Wipe off your murder dagger after you've killed the help too.
Absolutely, 100%. You can't just leave bodies in the hallway, dude.
Man, can they make Ian a compelling character, even though all we've seen so far is just slaughter, and grinning?
I'm going to say if they base him off the actor who's playing him, I think he's interesting already.
Ashley's like, he is. Have you seen how much? I mean, he does look a little like your husband. I mean, he's vaguely Brat shaped.
It's very like he could beat you to death in an alley. Like, he's very foreboding. He's got that vibe.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know how I'm supposed to give a shit about him.
Ashley is very reserved for this series currently.
Very quiet opinions. I'm sorry.
All right. Go and watch episode 6 before you come and join us again next week.
We're going to do that.
Remember to check out the Patreon, articulatecoven.com/join. $2 or more a month gets you access to everything we do early and ad-free. We're on our way to 50 patrons. Ashley, I'm pretty sure I didn't count. It's been 2 days since I counted, and I think we hit 40 yesterday, paid patrons.
That's so delightful, guys.
So I do appreciate
Thank you.
A couple of new additions in the last week, so I appreciate you. Those messages are apparently hitting people. Thanks, you.
Guys.
We appreciate that. And that's about it. Until the next time that we talk to you, we have been your hosts. I am Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are the Articulate Coven.
Thanks for listening to The Articulate Coven. If you enjoyed the show, check out our groups on Facebook and Discord. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Or find us at articulatecoven.com and wherever you listen to podcasts.